On average, about 100 shark attacks are recorded every year. Although this is a small number compared to the many that could happen around the world, each attack represents a new opportunity to learn about the savage violence of these creatures. However, not all attacks are the same. Some go no further than simple scars or minor accidents. Others end in amputated limbs, and a few in loss of life. But there's a fourth group. We're talking about attacks so deadly that they have become milestones in the history of mankind. Stories that paralyze our hearts just by hearing them. Today, we have compiled 3 of them, and you're about to meet them. From monstrous predators that annihilated groups of bathers to ocean beasts that caused one of the ocean's greatest tragedies. Get comfortable and stay tuned because we are about to relive the 3 deadliest shark attacks in history. Number 3. For science, the greatest mysteries are those found in bones, especially ancient fossils that can tell us the deep stories of the past in a matter of seconds. In the case of shark attacks, there aren't usually many fossils that allow us to learn about the prehistoric attacks to which these creatures subjected our ancestors. But recently, an excavation managed to recover the remains of an individual they have christened Number 24. It's estimated that Number 24 lived 3,000 years ago, and while advancing along a river or lake of his time, he was stalked by a powerful animal. Naturally, after a swift chase, he was unable to escape the oceanic tide that pursued him and fell into the sea, where he experienced one of the most terrifying shark attacks in history. The fossils that have come down to us show penetrating wounds and surprising injuries that aren't common at all in modern attacks. According to the analysis, Number 24 had exactly 790 wounds distributed in several areas. Each one was worse than the last. His attacker's sharp teeth dug in deeply, but instead of tearing flesh, they sunk into his bones and created small fractures. Most of these puncture wounds were located in the lower part of the body, especially in the waist and legs. Another large number of them can be seen in the arms and hands, as this was the only means this defenseless individual clung to in order to protect himself from the attack, but it was useless. After carefully analyzing the samples and the different types of bites, the Oxford University Research Laboratory determined that the attack wasn't from any land predator or unusual sea creature, but it had been provoked by the monstrous tiger shark, a violent and territorial species whose powerful bite is characterized by causing the greatest possible suffering while its food is kept alive. It should be noted that the last moments of Number 24's life were filled not only with pain, but also with despair and helplessness. 790 injuries isn't exactly a small number when it comes to shark attacks. Everything seems to indicate that this creature went on a rampage against Number 24, and although we don't know why, one thing is for sure. The past was a truly chilling time. Number 2. Few people in New Jersey have any knowledge that its shores were filled with blood for 11 continuous days in the year 1916. It occurred in the summer, in the early days of July. It was a time of great heat waves, and the frenzy to cool off on the beach was fascinating to all. At least until some tragedies occurred. That morning, the shores were full of bathers. Thousands of people were flocking to enjoy the ocean. However, the warmth of so many human beings attracted the hungry sharks in the area. The arrival of these terrible predators was slow. There were no sudden movements or anything to give them away. They came by the dozens and scattered to the corners of the beach as if they were being directed by some macabre force. Then, as noon fell, the feast began. The sharks unleashed their fury without regard or hesitation. Screams filled the beach and made thousands of bathers flee in desperation. The waters began to turn red, and some people were unable to set foot on the sand again. Authorities counted 1 fatal victim and at least 3 injured people that day. In addition, due to the social panic, other people suffered serious fractures from being swept away, and others simply disappeared. But contrary to what you may believe, the next day, the bathers returned as if absolutely nothing had happened. Once again, the laughter and games of children could be heard. It seemed as if nothing had happened the day before. Unfortunately for these bathers, the sharks soon arrived again. These deadly machines came to the shores again, claiming 2 new victims and leaving dozens injured. From this point on, the authorities tried to control the situation, but people continued to invade the beaches and lakes. No restrictions could prevent the heat wave from pushing the unfortunate citizens to cool off, and this only increased the number of victims. For 11 days, sharks enjoyed terrorizing New Jersey. The press picked up the stories and the local government took action, but nothing had any effect. Charles Van Sant and Charles Bruder were among the victims, 2 adult males who lost so much blood when they were rescued that they did not survive. Similarly, 2 miners were swimming in Matawan Creek when a monstrous shark crushed their flesh and bones. Both lost their lives while being transported to the hospital. A total of 4 people died and more than 3 dozen were injured. As of July 13th, the beaches were definitely closed, and in the following years, an intense shark hunt began, which decimated the population of the area. Undoubtedly, this was one of the darkest days in New Jersey and one of the bloodiest shark attacks in history. Number 1. When it comes to mayhem and bloodshed, though, we must go all the way back to July 30th of 1945. On this day, the crew of the USS Indianapolis was on its way to a secret mission to deliver a series of components to finish assembling the nuclear bomb that would be dropped on Hiroshima at the end of World War II. The crew consisted of 1,195 passengers. The ship was moving full speed ahead, trying to stay hidden and off enemy radars. However, halfway through, the worst happened. The USS Indianapolis was detected by Japanese submarines, who didn't hesitate to hurl their shells at the ship. In a matter of minutes, the crew members experienced one of the greatest tragedies of the ocean. In the sinking of the ship alone, nearly 300 people lost their lives. The survivors looked at the bodies of their shipmates but could do nothing for them. They were stranded in the middle of the ocean with no chance of escape. The night was about to fall and they couldn't hope for rescue. They were lost, although the worst was yet to come. For 2 days, the men tried to survive the harsh conditions. Most had no life jackets, no food, and dehydration soon set in. Slowly, the number of survivors dwindled to 800. By the evening of the second day, hopes were practically nil. Everyone had accepted their fate, but then came the real horror. Dozens of sharks came from all corners of the ocean. None of the castaways saw them coming, but the screams soon followed. Tore them apart with a voracious appetite. Nothing was enough. These monstrous animals lashed the sea throughout the early hours of the morning, and by the next day, the water was stained red and hundreds of bodies were floating in the sea. When they were finally rescued, out of the 800 survivors, only 320 were left. The smallest estimate claims that more than 150 people died due to shark attacks, and this has given it the title of the deadliest shark attack in recorded history. Those who made it home never forgot the events and could never stop reliving the terrifying events of that July 30th, 1945. Undoubtedly, these tragedies show us the dangers of nature in a macabre way and the hundreds of possibilities it has to hurt us. We aren't safe in any corner of the planet, and if you're still not convinced of this, you'd better join us to know the chilling stories of the Amazon jungle, the plains of Africa, or the monsters that inhabit Australia. Only then will you understand that monsters are real, very real. Do you accept being part of this adventure? If so, then get ready to live the horror in first person by taking a look at the following videos.